Dispatch from the grave. The place was behind the enemy lines in North Burma. The time was the night of May 10th, 1944. A handful of American infantrymen, British Lancashire men, Gurkhas, Kachins, and Burmese jungle fighters had been ordered to set up a diversionary action against the firmly entrenched Japanese, the object to rout the organized enemy and make it possible for the capture of key positions along the route of the Burma Road. The problem communications. Captain Neil Murray, together with a Burmese non-com and 4 combat-fatigued, dengue fever-ridden riflemen, found themselves face to face with the most serious of all problems, the lack of communications. They had been cut off from their fellow guerrillas and were surrounded by the Japanese, and what was worse, they had been ordered to rendezvous with Colonel John Hulbert and his unit in order to mobilize for a major push against the enemy in an adjacent sector. But first, they had been ordered to sit tight. Where they were supposed to go and at what time they were supposed to be there was anybody's guess. Captain Murray waited patiently for the message that was supposed to be sent over the field radio, but no message was received. The 5 men in his unit began to grow uneasy. From their hiding place in the jungle underbrush, they could virtually spit upon the enemy as droves of them passed their position in a seemingly never-ending parade. The longer they remained inactive in that position, the more dangerous it was to stay where they were. By noon of the second day, the captain was debating with himself, trying to make up his mind whether or not to break radio silence and attempt contact with Hulbert. He finally decided. He looked at his radio operator and made the signal to wind her up. The man hesitated, glanced around to see if any of the enemy were within earshot, and then nervously began to crank the generator. Before the captain could phrase the words of his message in his mind, the voice of the colonel's radio man was heard. Command to Murray, do you read me? Sorry to have kept you waiting so long, but we've been running for 2 days trying to get out of the hornet's nest. Let's make a date for 2200 at rendezvous checkpoint log cabin. See you then, old man. It was then a little past noon on the 11th. The map reference to which the colonel had ordered the captain and his men was nearly 8 miles from their present position. With the thick jungle and the swarms of the enemy surrounding them, the able captain knew their chances of ever making it would be slim. But orders were orders. He gave the signal, and the men, eager to be active again, pushed off. It was 21:45 when they finally reached the rendezvous, and for the first time in several days the men were able to relax their vigil, for they had finally made it back to their own lines, as was evidenced by the heavy concentration of infantrymen dug in throughout the area. At 21:50 all hell broke loose. The Japanese had formed a dragnet, beginning with 1,500 yards of the Americans' position, and started combing back through the jungle toward their own heavily concentrated forces. Murray and his men peered into the inky jungle and watched as flares and tracer bullets literally raked the bush. The Burmese non-com turned to the captain and grinned. Looks like we got here in nicks of time, no? And how, yes, Murray replied, mopping the sweat from his face. Another few hours in there, and we'd have been cut down like ducks in a shooting gallery. Shortly after 2200, the firing ceased. The unearthly silence walled them in, except for an occasional rifle shot. The rest of the night was peaceful, and the small group were able to sleep. At dawn, it was immediately apparent that the radio dispatch had saved their lives. The Japanese all around them had vanished, withdrawn during the night, but before they retreated, they had made doubly certain that no guerrillas had infiltrated their lines. The area commander sent runners along their fortifications to request the officers to report their positions and remain strengths. Hey, you guys, a burly rifleman called out to the group. Captain Murray, what outfit you from? I'm Captain Murray, he said, moving down to greet the man. I was ordered to rendezvous here with Colonel Hulbert. Yeah, the soldier said. When was that supposed to be? The colonel's unit got it 3 days ago. Not a man was left. The captain blinked at the news, turning to face his men as they came down from their positions and gathered around. Are you sure the colonel is dead? Murray asked in a tone that clearly said he didn't believe it. The soldier spat a dead cigar butt out of his mouth. Hell yes, I'm sure. I buried him in his radio operator myself 3 days ago. The Burmese non-com was speechless. He turned away from the others and went to stand by himself, staring off into the mysterious jungle beyond. If the colonel and his radio man were killed 3 days ago, and who sent that message? A rifleman asked. Curious at the captain and his ragged men, as though he was weary of all the questions, the soldier replied, "What's the difference? You're all alive and kicking, aren't you?" But that did not answer the question. Who sent the dispatch from the grave that had resulted in the saving of their lives?